Salutations, students. All right, we're creating a animal's head superimposed with our face on it. So I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop to put all my images in it. Got a picture of my face, drug that in there. So you're going to need a photo of your face for this project. Now I'm going to look online for an animal, and I'm kind of thinking about which one. I'm thinking a manatee. So of course, I'm kind of spelling it incorrectly, but Google's smart. It's telling me how to spell it. Manatee, all right? I'm looking through the images, looking for a high-res one in a similar direction that I'm looking, which was straightforward. Found that image, and I drug it into the folder. Now I've got both those images, the manatee and my face. All right, I think I'm ready to do this exercise. So I'm opening it up in Photoshop, and I'm taking a look at the image, making sure it's high enough resolution. I'm going to go to image size and take a look. Right now it's not showing me pixels, so I'm going to click resample, and then pixels will drop down. And I've got 3000 by 2000, plenty big for this exercise. Looks nice and clear. Now I'm drawing in my face, dragging in my face rather, using the elliptical tool to make a selection around my face. I'm getting all my face in there, copying, Command C, and now I'm pasting it into the document. So it's quite small, so I need to change it in size. So I'm going to go up and free transform or click scale. Either one will work. And I'm going to scale this prospectively, so make sure that little lock's clicked where you're pressing shift. And I'm going to dull down the opacity so I can see the original layer where the mouth and the eyes are of this manatee, and I'm going to kind of try to line them up. So I'm looking at the manatee's eyes and my eyes and the manatee's mouth. And I think lining up the mouth is going to be easier than the eyes. So scale it up in size a little bit so it fits a little bit closer. Kind of just looking at both layers at one time. I did that by dulling down the opacity. Bring the opacity back to 100. Now I'm looking at the entire thing. Created a layer mask. I'm going to use black to remove and white to bring back images. So adjusting the size a bit, turning down the hardness so I've got a nice feathered edge or a soft edge, and I'm removing the majority of the outside of the face, kind of getting rid of that face line, that hard face edge where it's kind of dark in this picture, and my hairline obviously too. I'm noticing the eyes of the manatee are sticking out a little bit, and that's kind of making this thing look odd. So I'm going to need to fix that. I'm just going to go in and bring away parts of it. So, okay, those eyes are kind of bugging me, so I have selected my elliptical tool. I've selected the eye. Now I'm going to go to the background, and I'm basically going to clone in this area, or in this case I'm going to use a content-aware fill, which basically clones from all of the information around that particular thing that you're cloning. So made a selection, I made sure my manatee layer is selected, highlighting those areas, and then I'm using content-aware fill to kind of get rid of those eyeballs. Now I've got a manatee with no eyes, right? Content-aware fill again, okay. Command-Shift F5 is the hotkey for that. So I'm bringing back the layer, and now I don't have those dark things left and right. Thought my head was a little weird, the layout with it, so I flipped it horizontally. I think that fits with the way that the manatee's looking a little bit better. Now I'm scaling it. I'm going to slightly scale it out of proportion, bring my eyes a little bit wider, kind of making my head fatter than it actually is. I'm going to go into the layer mask, and I'm going to remove a little bit more of my hair and around the sides of my cheek, kind of letting the manatee's head shape show through in some areas, okay? So removing, then I could always switch back to white and add back areas that I want, and remove once again with black. I'm going to dull down the opacity so it doesn't totally remove it, just slightly, and then I can take away little chunks of it but still have both the background of the manatee and my face show at the same time, okay? So removing little bits of my eyebrow, chunks of my cheeks, and kind of just doing it really subtly and gradually now that my opacity's down. Kind of blending the the area of where the manatee's skin stops and where my skin starts, so it's not such a hard edge. Right? Letting the whiskers of the manatee show through. It's looking nice. Okay. Creepy and horrifying too. All right. Now my skin is pretty red and orange and the manatee is blue and green because it's underwater. So I'm going to create a new adjustment layer, and I think I'm going to use levels. Okay. Levels, I can isolate certain colors in a particular layer. I'm going to create a clipping mask, and this is going to make it so this adjustment layer only affects the layer that it's clipped to, which is my face, not the manatee. I'm going to go up to the top where it says RGB, and I'm going to change it just to red. I'm going to remove some of that red, which will make my skin a little bit greener. I'm going to add some green. That'll make my skin green. I'm going to add some blue, and I'm doing this with those sliders. And I'm going to keep dialing it in, switching the different colors and affecting them. I'm going to look at the skin of the manatee and see if I can get it closer. And you'll notice that the edge of my face and the edge of the manatee starts becoming a little bit better meshed together, where it doesn't look so hard of an edge, and it's not contrasting with those cool colors of the manatee. The manatee being greens and blues, which are cool colors, and my skin tone was naturally kind of reds and oranges and tans, which are more warm colors, okay? So I'm dialing it in to get it to be cool colors and similar to the colors of the manatee. Okay, looking better, looking better. I'm noticing though that the bottom of my face is pretty light and the bottom of the manatee's face is pretty dark. So I'm going to need to make some adjustments to that. But before I do that, I'm going to go into my layer mask and I'm going to remove a couple of these artifacts that are just hanging out, things that I didn't erase in the face layer when I initially created my layer mask. Out towards the edge, there's a couple little artifacts that I'm noticing. So now, creating a darker part of my face, okay? I'm doing this with an adjustments layer again. I'm going to create a clipping mask just like I did before, so it's only affecting my face. And this time I'm using levels, but I'm using it in RGB, so it's affecting every color, and I'm darkening the entire thing. Okay, which is cool, but now the top of my face is too dark. So I'm going to go into that layer mask, and I'm going to use a soft brush with black, and I'm going to remove the layer mask for that adjustment layer just in the top of my face. So now the top of my face is lighter, and the bottom of my face is darker. I'm going to do basically the reverse of that. I'm going to create an adjustment layer, levels, and I'm going to adjust just the lightness of it and make it brighter. So it's kind of blowing out the light on the top of my face. Using a clipping mask again. This time I'm going to invert that layer because I don't want to use much of it, just a little bit towards the top. I'm going to bring it back using white with my brush tool. So I'm going in and brushing along the top of my face and kind of making that bright light so that it meets the skin of the top of the manatee and it looks more seamless in the transition. Okay, we're really starting to get somewhere. I'm noticing a couple of little artifacts I want to get rid of. So I'm going back to my face layer and removing little bits around the eyes, or bringing back around the eyes things that I think need to be added or removed. And I'm really just looking at the contours of the manatee's face and trying to improve this, okay? So using white to repair or bring back, using black to remove. Okay? Take out a little bit less beneath the lip. And I'm noticing that the manatee's lip falls a little lower than mine, okay? As I click that eyeball and look at both, I'm thinking that I might need to bring my face down a little bit, scale it out of proportion. How would I do this? Transform, a free transform, all right? This is a great tool for getting things to the size you want. And I'm just going to pull it down so that my lip kind of lines up with his lip. And the same thing with the length of my face, kind of stretching it out of proportion a bit so it fits in that face space the best, okay? When I get it to the size I want, I click the return key or the enter key, and this commits the transformation. Basically gets rid of those transform controls that are around the outside of that. I'm going to add back in just maybe a little bit of the eyelash and chunks of my cheek, and also, remove a little bit of the image. It's a process that I'll keep doing, zooming in, zooming out to kind of see how the thing looks. And this is how I tell myself that the composition is good, because I'm really giving it a careful assessment. I'm going to do something we've never done before, and that's copying all the layers into one solid layer. And there was a hotkey, it flashed on the screen. I'm going to go up to my blending modes and put it on overlay, and then I'm going to go to filter Highpass, and this is basically a way of sharpening things and making these really definitive edges, okay? Now, it looks cool, but it's also too much on the entire thing. So I'm going to create a layer mask, and I'm going to invert that layer mask so that that it's not applied to anything. And I'm going to use my brush tool with the color white, and I'm going to bring back that high pass filter, that very sharpened layer of my face, to the whiskers and to my eyes and lips, areas that I want to draw emphasis to. And you can do the same thing with the sharpening on a copied layer of the entire thing. And this is really just going to bring out the eyes and mouth and make it look more intense and kind of disturbing. All right, I think I'm really getting somewhere with this. I can turn that layer on and off to kind of see what the difference is. And I do believe I like it a little bit more. Maybe I'll add some sharpness to the Manatee's leg and around the right side of his head here and bring out some of those details of the hair and the spots on the skin. Okay, I think I've got a pretty awesome superimposed face on an animal. My face with a lot of nose hairs superimposed on an animal. Last thing we're going to do is save, and this is vital, is that you save it to your desktop or someplace that you'll be able to find on your computer. Give it a name that makes sense, okay? Give it a name that makes sense, not just untitled document. So in this case, Mr. Rios Manatee is what I'm going to call it. And I'm going to save that file to my desktop so it's easy to find. And then if you're in my class, you would turn that into Google Classroom.